Hi, this is Laura Paxton talking about Asperger syndrome and mood disorders. It can be very hard to differentiate whether or not someone with Asperger syndrome has an additional mood disorder. In fact, in a typical individual, Asperger's or not, it may take 8 years to receive a diagnosis of bipolar personality or bipolar disorder. So this video is about the difference and how clinicians determine that. In my own case, it took a year for my treating professional to decide that I also had bipolar 2 in addition to Asperger syndrome, because so many traits of a mood disorder also fall within the umbrella of Asperger's. For one thing, living with Asperger syndrome can be depressing. It can be depressing because it's so difficult to make friends. I did not have any friends in elementary school, middle or high school, and I didn't have close friends when I was in college. That was very depressing for me, never feeling like I fit in or could belong. In addition, people with Asperger syndrome are often very anxious about social situations, and sometimes we have severe anxiety disorder on top of Asperger's, or depression in addition to having the syndrome. And so many situations are anxiety provoking for us, not even just social, but things that wouldn't bother a neurotypical individual. So the difference is whether or not there's a family history of a mood disorder in addition to autism, and the intensity, frequency, recurrence. Most people know that bipolar disorder is a series of ups and downs. What they're not aware of is that there are two types of bipolar disorder. Type 1, which consists of very high highs and moderate lows, and then type 2, which is comprised of hypomania, which is not quite severe mania, and severe depression. So there's not quite the balance between the yin and yang in the personality. To complicate things even further, there are some people who have bipolar 1 who have high highs and low lows. And in addition to that, there is a disorder called cyclothymia, where the highs are soft and the lows are soft. There's also dysthymia, where there's a chronic state of depression. Of course, only a clinical professional can determine whether or not you have a mood disorder in addition to Asperger syndrome. One thing that is often misdiagnosed in a person with Asperger syndrome is mania. When we are into our obsessive, perseverative interests, we can go without sleep, we can go without eating, we are so involved and so immersed that we can look manic, when in fact we are simply being autistic. Now, some people with Asperger syndrome are manic, but that has to be determined through consultation with a professional who will look at the factors that I mentioned earlier. So to sum it all up, it's a very complicated situation to look at the areas of overlap between a mood disorder and bipolar or other mood disorders. And there's always a striving for a sense of balance when the ball goes up and down and all around. Sometimes it can be so confusing that it's just like being in a sea of silly string where it's just so complicated that you really wish that you had help to understand. So please do consult someone who can be helpful to you in the process. Thank you.